Testimony continued today in the most notorious criminal trial in Richland County. Dr. John Boyle is accused of killing his wife Maureen and burying her body.
The 12-year-old son finally took the stand.
Boyle confidently told the jury it was his decision to testify against his father.
I heard a scream. I heard a thud. It was about this loud.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
I decided at an early age that our trauma should not be what defines us. It's what we choose to do with it that does. I'm here to share my unique perspective on true crime, mental health, society, and popular culture, and always with a slight sense of humor. I'm Collier Landry, and welcome to my show. Mover Nation, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? All right, so we're supposed to be live at 3 Eastern Pacific, because that's where I live. But we're live at 2 because we'll be back at 3. There's been a breaking news in the Sandra Birchmore case, which you guys have asked me to cover for a while. And the feds have arrested a suspect, and he has been indicted. So we're gonna watch a little bit, share a little bit of the info. So we're gonna get into this, but just a little background. So a former Stoughton, Massachusetts police detective Matthew Farwell has been accused of killing 23-year-old Sandra Birchmore in 2021 while she was pregnant with what she told him was his child. A grand jury indictment filed yesterday in federal court alleges that Farwell had strangled Birchmore to death inside her Canton apartment. Canton, Massachusetts. Is this a familiar place to you guys? Canton, Massachusetts, as in the home of the Karen Reed trial and corruption and just craziness. So we're back in Canton. There's, on a side note, there's Canton, Ohio, and Mansfield, Ohio, which is where I'm from. There's Canton, Massachusetts, where all the Karen Reed stuff went down. And then Karen is from Mansfield, Massachusetts. Small world, parallel universes. I don't know what you call it. It's a very weird thing. Anyways, so the grand jury indicted him on charges that he allegedly had strangled Birchmore to death inside her Canton apartment and then staged the scene to make it look like she took her own life, which is the whole crux of all this. A lot of you guys have reached out and been like, have you seen this case? It's pretty wild. And here we are looking at it together. I hope you all can hear me, by the way. I don't even know. Thank you so much, everyone. Sorry, this is all just kind of popped up on something. I'm sure you guys are like, I thought you were going live at 3. Well, such is life. I was going on a bike ride. I had my bike gear together. In fact, I have my bike helmet. And then Blame Karen fan, she messaged me and said, they arrested somebody in Sandra Birchmore. I was like, I don't know. Let's check it out. Anyways, speaking of, let's check it out.
On February 4th, 2021, Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her Canton, Massachusetts apartment. The charges filed today in federal court allege that she was in fact murdered by Matthew Farwell 3 days earlier. At the time of her death, Sandra Birchmore was a 23-year-old woman with her entire life ahead of her, and she was pregnant with her first child. We allege that Sandra Birchmore survived years of grooming, statutory rape, and then sexual violence, all at the hands of Matthew Farwell, who was employed throughout their relationship as an officer and then detective for the Stoughton Police Department. And when it became clear to Mr. Farwell that he could no longer control Sandra Birchmore, he allegedly silenced her permanently. This morning, Matthew Farwell was arrested on a federal grand jury indictment, charging him with 1 count of killing a witness or victim. Specifically, Mr. Farwell is charged with violating Title 18 United States Code 1512 for killing Sandra Birchmore with the intent of preventing her from communicating information about his possible commission of federal crimes. How did this all unfold? What happened here? Well, back in 2010, a 12-year-old Sandra Birchmore applied to join the Stoughton Police Department's Explorers Program, which introduces teens to policing. Officer Matthew Farwell was an instructor in that program. And as alleged in court documents, he befriended Sandra Birchmore. contacted her online, went to the library with her, became friends on Facebook, essentially groomed her. And then he committed statutory rape by having sex with her when he was a 27-year-old police officer and she was just 15 years old. Mr. Farwell continued to have a sexual relationship with Sandra Birchmore until her death 8 years later, allegedly meeting her for sex regularly when he was on duty and being paid by the Stoughton Police Department. Now, in the weeks leading up to Sandra Birchmore's death in February 2021, she found out that she was expecting a baby. And she told Mr. Farwell that he was the father. According to court documents, Ms. Birchmore was very excited about becoming a mother, buying baby clothes and other items, taking precautions to ensure the health of her new child. Sandra Birchmore had good friends. She had a good job. She had dreams of becoming a nurse, and she had a child on the way. But Mr. Farwell did not share in that excitement. It's alleged that Mr. Farwell reacted quite negatively to the news that Sandra Birchmore was pregnant with his child. And he acted angrily, it is alleged, when Sandra Birchmore started making requests of Mr. Farwell around doctor's appointments and ultrasounds and what information would be on the birth certificate. Mr. Farwell was losing control in late 2020, early 2021. And the information that Sandra Birchmore possessed about his illegal conduct was in danger of slipping out. In fact, word started to get out about their relationship. Less than 2 weeks before she was found dead, someone called the Stoughton Police Department and disclosed that Matthew Farwell had had a relationship with Sandra Birchmore. And when Mr. Farwell learned about that call, he became visibly angry. Mr. Farwell, it is alleged in these court papers, started to lose his patience, lose his temper, and the 6'4" Mr. Farwell started to be physically violent with 4'10" Sandra Birchmore. And Sandra Birchmore told her friends that Mr. Farwell had pushed her and shoved her and put her in a chokehold. She was scared. And during that same time, Mr. Farwell was allegedly planning Sandra Birchmore's murder. For the first time, he requested a key to her apartment. And she told friends that he was oddly inspecting the apartment and looking at the closet, including the closet that she was found dead in front of. And then it all came to a head on February 1st, 2021. Mr. Farwell went over to her apartment that evening, and he strangled Sandra Birchmore to death. That's the allegation in this case. And he used his knowledge and experience as a law enforcement officer to stage her death to look like a suicide. He allegedly attempted to cover his tracks to literally try and get away with murder. And he almost did, until today. Back in 2021, with the information that was available, Sandra Birchmore's death was ruled a suicide, or deemed a suicide. But over the last year or so, the FBI and our office have been working exhaustively with our state partners. We've uncovered critical new information, examined the existing information, all of which led to this federal grand jury indictment. If convicted on this charge, Mr. Farwell faces a minimum of life imprisonment. Giving voice to the voiceless, ensuring that no one is above the law, protecting the vulnerable people of Massachusetts, that's the highest calling of people in law enforcement. And this case represents those principles. And every day across Massachusetts, thousands of police officers, federal, state, local law enforcement, put their lives on the line to protect the people of Massachusetts. Mr. Farwell violated those principles, and now he faces very grave consequences. It is disheartening to have to charge law enforcement officers, especially with crimes as serious. But it's our job at the Department of Justice to investigate potential crimes without fear and without favor. We do in this office what we've been doing for decades with our federal partners like the FBI. We follow the facts, regardless of where they lead. We apply the law and the principles of federal prosecution, full stop. We are not influenced by social media chatter. We are not influenced by politics. We're influenced by the facts and the law. Our mission is to do our level best to do justice in every case. And our mission today is to do justice for Sandra Birchmore. Lastly, I want to note that we are sharing the information and the evidence that we developed in this case with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, with the Massachusetts State Police, and with the Massachusetts Attorney General's office, so they can assess whether state charges may be warranted in this situation. And I want to thank those three agencies. I also want to thank the Stoughton Police Department for their assistance in our investigation. Lastly, I want to commend the women and the men of the FBI Boston and Lakeville for their incredible.
They're not playing around. This is the federal government. They're not playing around. A lot of you have asked about like, okay. We're, what's going on with this federal investigation with the Karen Reed case? Obviously, things are happening, and you can bet your ass. You can bet your ass that they're not going to let this one slip through the cracks. Even the Norfolk County DA's office, like there's such a microscope on them now that if they recommend this for state charge, I guarantee no stone will be left unturned because they look so bad to the rest of the country. They have no choice but to follow through with this. It's wild. And I bet you that this tees up them not pursuing a retrial of Karen Reed. I bet you. I bet this ends up taking up all their time and resources. This is clearly a better case for them to pursue for the Commonwealth. But anyways, let's bring this dude back here.
Human Trafficking Civil Rights Unit Liz Riley, Assistant United States Attorneys Tori Cummings and Brian Fogarty. This case doesn't happen without their passion for justice. They deserve the credit, not me. Now I want to turn it over to Steve Kelleher, the Assistant Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Kelleher, Assistant Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston. At approximately 10:45 a.m. this morning, the FBI arrested former Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell for allegedly taking the life of Sandra Birchmore in order to ensure her silence. The FBI SWAT team took him into custody at a shopping plaza in Revere without incident. Immediately following his arrest, we shared this significant development with Sandra's family. We know it does not ease their pain, but hopefully it answers some of their questions. Simply put, this case is about seeking justice for Sandra, who we believe was killed by Matthew Farwell after he allegedly groomed and sexually abused her when she was just 15 years old, violating her body and her civil rights. It's also about keeping Mr. Farwell from getting away with murder and from harming anyone else. We in law enforcement are entrusted with immense authority because our decisions can have life-changing consequences, both good and bad. To temper that power, we must adhere to the highest of ethical standards. What we believe Officer Matthew Farwell did, as outlined in today's indictment, is depraved and a gross betrayal of his sworn oath and the public's trust. Let me be clear. Matthew Farwell's gun and badge did not grant him authority to violate the Constitution. And it certainly didn't entitle him to sexually exploit, abuse, and rape a child before killing her and her unborn baby in an attempt to cover up his alleged crimes. What's also troubling is we believe Matthew Farwell staged Sandra's body and her apartment to make it look like she had died by suicide. In the days that followed, this sworn police officer repeatedly lied to Massachusetts State Police investigators about the nature of their relationship. It's a stark contrast to the sheer excitement and pure joy that Sandra felt when she told Farwell that she was expecting his child, texting him a photo of a poster she had made celebrating the pregnancy. Our investigation also uncovered additional evidence that is inconsistent with someone choosing to die by suicide. In the hours leading up to Sandra's death, she reached out to a photographer to inquire about booking a newborn photo shoot. She also reached out to a friend about obtaining baby clothes. And at the time that she was in the middle of doing laundry when she died, with a load in the washing machine and another one in the dryer.
Jay, this is a new episode. You're here with it.
And our work is not done. Our agents, analysts, and financial investigators reviewed tens of thousands of text messages, emails, and financial records, conducted dozens of interviews with family, friends, and experts, and analyzed the crime scene. We urge anyone with information about the circumstances surrounding Sandra's death to contact the FBI. Committing murder to eliminate victims and witnesses is heinous, and it shakes the very core of our justice system, which depends on people truthfully testifying to what they know. Today's arrest shows that anyone who tries to interfere and retaliate against victims and witnesses in an attempt to subvert the rule of law will have to answer for it. After all, the public's trust is critical for our justice system to function properly. That's why the FBI will do everything in its power to bring to justice anyone who tries to undermine that trust. Our hearts go out to Sandra, to the Birchmore family, and all who knew and loved Sandra. On behalf of the FBI, I want to thank them for their cooperation, patience, perseverance, and fortitude. I also want to thank our agents and analysts for their hard work and dedication, Acting U.S. Attorney Josh Levy and his team for their partnership, and both Chief McNamara of the Stoughton Police Department and Colonel Mon with the Massachusetts State Police for their assistance in helping us move this investigation forward. Thanks, Steve.
Take some questions.
Josh, why did it take so long to go from suicide, finding of suicide, to now murder?
Well, I think when you have a chance to look through the court papers, you'll see how exhaustive this investigation is. Obviously, this is an incredibly serious charge. There was a lot of forensics and other evidence that had to be marshaled, expert witnesses, et cetera. So we move as fast as we can, and we also have a duty to get it right.
Was there a rush to find a suicide because this involved a police officer?
Yeah, our office wasn't involved in the initial determination of a suicide, so I can't speak to that.
You mentioned your office got involved about a year ago. What prompted that?
Yeah, we get leads on cases all the time from all different sources. I'm not going to comment on how we get information on how we got into this one.
As you said initially, this was considered a suicide, but it seems like there's a plethora of evidence to suggest otherwise. Surveillance, text messages. How was that all missed for the first 2 years?
Yeah, I'm only in a position to comment on what we've done on this investigation. Those questions are not something I'm able to answer to. We like I said in my comments, we started pulling this string and followed the evidence and got new evidence to put together the case we put together today.
So what evidence tipped you off?
I'm sorry, sir?
What evidence led you to pin it?
It's you're never able to pick one piece of evidence that is the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's really an accumulation. We have to go in front of a jury, 12 citizens, and convince them beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Farwell is guilty. That's on us. He's presumed innocent today, and he will remain innocent until we meet that burden. But it's all the evidence in combination makes that case.
Did the state medical examiner's office plan to change the cause of death on her birth death certificate, and did you determine who the father of her unborn baby was?
Well, I'll take those in reverse order. I'm not going to comment on the second piece. What we have alleged in the court papers is that Ms. Birchmore told Mr. Farwell several times that he was the father. And your question about the state medical examiner, obviously, they don't report to me, and that's a question better directed to the state medical examiner.
Matthew is mentioned here, but we've heard reports over the years of several other officers. Are you guys conducting any other ongoing investigations?
This is interesting.
To Sandra?
So I think Assistant Special Agent Charge Kelleher alluded to the fact this is an ongoing investigation. I'm not going to comment on what the other pieces are that we're looking into, but it's an active investigation. Shelley.
This is a death penalty eligibility. Is that on the table, or is that already off the table?
Shelley, you're absolutely correct. The maximum penalty under this statute as charged is a sentence of death. And whether to seek the death penalty in a federal case is decided at the highest levels of the Department of Justice. That decision has not been made on whether the death penalty was sought in this case, and that process will continue, but I can't comment on it beyond that.
Would you favor that?
Oh, not going to comment on it. It's a process that involves a lot of people at the Department of Justice, and I'm not going to share my view on this.
Did other officers in Stoughton or Stoughton government know
Wow.
grooming the underage sexual contact?
Thank you. Hoodie and a crowbar. Thank you so much.
I'm not going to comment on information that's not in the public record. As you heard, this is an ongoing matter, so we're going to continue to look into this matter. And if there's other individuals that we develop evidence they've violated the federal law, we'll proceed.
I'm just going to interrupt a little bit here. All right. A couple of things. We should always say, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a psychologist. I do not work in law enforcement. I'm just a guy who's been through a lot of shit, as you see in the intro. It's not legal advice. And everyone that we feature who is under criminal indictment or being charged, who has not been convicted in a court of law, is still presumed innocent. That's how this country works. However, I will give the caveat that if this guy did what they are alleging, and they've been investigating this for years, the thing is that they just a lot of people seem to think that, especially nowadays, again, I'm not an expert, okay, I've just been through the system for so much of my life. If they arrest you for something like this, they got a lot of evidence against you. They're not going to bring a case. The feds, it's street sweeping and I forgot to move my truck. Oh, I just got a ticket. This guy's done. Hopefully, this will draw their eye to the corruption that surrounded the Karen Reed case. I know a lot of people, there are people I saw that jump in the chat. They're like, oh, she's guilty, this, that, and the other. I don't care what you think about Karen Reed, whether you think she's innocent or guilty. I don't care about that. A lot of noise outside. I don't care about that. Anyone that watched that trial, that listened to the evidence, that listened to the witnesses that the prosecution called for 8.5 weeks, knows that case was completely mishandled and completely corrupt. It doesn't matter if she did it or not, because she didn't get a fair. The whole system was clearly rigged to say that she did do it. She didn't have any benefit of the doubt. She didn't have any reason. They arrested her and charged her and put her on trial without a sufficient amount of evidence and a massive amount of police corruption. So I don't care what people say. You say in the comments, oh, she did this. I don't care. Anyone who watched that trial as a sane person goes, that was not a fair, that was not a proper investigation. That was not a fair investigation. It was very biased police work and horrific police work. And on that alone, she deserved to be acquitted, and she wasn't acquitted. It was a mistrial. That alone. So y'all can miss me with that, with the Karen Reed guilty thing, because give her a fair trial first. Do real police work first. And this is just more proof. And I don't mean to get on the Karen Reed soapbox. This is more proof that something is rotten in Denmark over there. Something is rotten in Canton. Please have a wee-wee on the vehicle of the rude person you find. No, we can't do that. They sometimes they let you rush them. Sometimes and you know what? Maybe let's say a little prayer. Maybe I didn't get a ticket, because that's happened before where they haven't given me a ticket because they've been like, oh, we recognize the truck. I have the pass, the stuff. They're like, it's fine, whatever. We'll see. Yeah, and I think this is corrupt. This is complete corruption. Yeah. Anyways, okay. Back to this. I just saw somebody commented, and I was like, I got to address that, because on no planet because you watch the Karen Reed trial and go, oh yeah, they did a good job. Well, they did a good. We love calling her in our family chat. Thank you so much, Casey Lee.
Can you touch on murder? State usually is the one that handles murder charges.
And welcome, Amethyst Moon, aka Hoodie in the Crowbar.
This one get to federal authorities, and do you think that the state officials watched this investigation?
There's a lot of overlap in the law between the federal government has jurisdiction over and what the state government has jurisdiction over. When someone comes to our office with credible information that a police officer may have been involved in a murder and underlying legal violations as set forth in the indictment, we're going to investigate that case every time. They come in different shapes and sizes, but that is our duty to the public, is to pursue credible leads like that and investigate them fully.
To follow up on her question, we saw Lieutenant Tully outside earlier. This was Norfolk DA's case first. You mentioned that they've been state partners throughout this. Does your office look into what may have went wrong in their investigation?
This case about what went wrong for Sandra Birchmore and how she was treated by Matthew Farwell and how he violated her rights and ultimately killed her. That's what this case is about. It's not about what happens at other state agencies. This is about justice for Sandra Birchmore.
This is the second major death investigation where your office has come to a different conclusion than Norfolk County DA. I'm sure you can't comment on that, but is that normal for federal prosecutors and state prosecutors to reach different conclusions on investigations?
So I'm here to talk about one case. We got about 1,000 cases in the office. I'm not going to comment on any other case in the office. I would just caution you to not extrapolate too much from one case out of all the things that are happening in our office.
This district has brought
I get it. Oh, Charlie, thank you.
Telling of a witness. I can't think of any.
And Black Widow, thank you so much.
Yeah. I don't know the answer. That's a question. That's an answer we could get for you, but I don't know the answer to it, Shelley. We bring charges of obstruction of justice frequently, as you know, but I'm not pulling one off the top of my head that matches this. Sorry. That's okay. Yeah, I'm not in a position to comment on things that are in the public record. That I wouldn't take that as yes or no. But I'm limited up here under local rules to talk about what's in the public record.
Can you talk about the arrest? What happened with the arrest this morning?
I'm going to ask ASAC Kelleher to speak to that.
So this morning we had a SWAT team that was in a location where Mr. Farwell was. He was taken into custody. He was driving a truck, gravel hauler, and he was safely taken into custody by the SWAT team, which is, what we strive to achieve every time we do an operation like this. No, he was in Revere.
Nothing in the neighborhood in Revere. Was on the highway.
No, it was in the shopping plaza in Revere.
I couldn't hear what they were saying.
We have not tried to interview him.
That dump truck he's driving, is that his new employment?
Again, I wouldn't comment on that here at this time, but he was driving the dump truck when he was arrested.
Before your agency got involved, there were other agencies investigating this. Can we expect to see any fallout from those lead investigators from other agencies who were responsible for finding justice in this case and not?
Don't scare me if my truck is getting towed. It's not getting towed.
I think the juncture we're at right now is that we are working with state agencies. We've developed, as I said, new information that we're going to share with our state partners. They're going to make decisions about what charges are appropriate under state law, if any.
Can you tell us who the lead investigator was on this case before your agency got involved?
I can tell you the lead investigator was for our matter, which was the FBI. I don't know. I honestly don't have information on who the lead was in a state investigation. I don't get that type of information.
You've said that you're not, you're looking just into the fact of Sandra Birchmore's death. That's the focus of this case, not what law enforcement agencies prior to you did. Is that within your jurisdiction to investigate what those state agencies did?
I think what I said was I'm here to talk about Sandra Birchmore, and I'm not here to talk about other things that are happening in the United States Attorney's Office. It's 125 federal prosecutors doing a lot of different things. In this case, this press conference is about one young woman who we allege was killed by a Stoughton police officer, Matthew Farwell.
Saying how your investigation might be complicated by the fact that you're going now into federal court where there is this, and you found that it was suicide, the Norfolk County DA's office opted not to pursue it. How does that affect your efforts now to prosecute?
Yep, good question. Look. In evaluating whether to bring charges, we obviously look at all the evidence that's both incriminating and exculpatory. All that gets turned over to defense lawyers. Mr. Farwell will be well represented in this case, and those facts will be put out in front of a jury. We are confident that when all the evidence is presented to a jury, if it gets that far, that those issues will not prevent us from securing a conviction.
Have you done your own, having your own person do an autopsy?
We
come to a different conclusion. I know there's another one out there that's already been reported on.
That's correct. There's an expert witness. I don't want to get into exactly what that person did or didn't because I don't want to mischaracterize it, but it's in the court documents. Who has a tremendous amount of experience in this field and has reached a different conclusion.
Just a couple more questions. And just to be clear, you're not going to comment on the other two officers who had sexual relations with Ms. Birchmore?
That's correct.
How unusual is it for a police officer to be charged with a capital offense involving sex with a minor?
It's unusual in my experience. I don't have a full handle on how often this has been done nationwide, but it's an unusual situation. And that's partly why it's so incredibly disturbing.
Anyone else?
Do you have any words of caution to departments that have police explorer programs based on what you learned from your investigation about how this was able to unfold?
Yeah, I'm going to stick to my swim lane. I'm not an expert on police explorer programs, and so I really don't have any intelligent answer to that question.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it.
Your donations on their website.
All
Again,
right,
that's
go ahead and go get rid of that. There you have it. So an arrest made of this Matthew Farwell law enforcement member of the Stoughton Police Department related to a Canton Police Department members. Just bad stuff. Bad stuff. But could this be the first domino that falls outside of the Karen Reed case that maybe opens up some other situations, maybe exposes some other individuals that have been involved in the Karen Reed situation, and maybe they are held accountable as well? There's a lot of crossover, I'm told, and I've read, between the Karen Reed case and this particular case as well. There's a lot of law enforcement officers, a lot of covering for one another that has been happening, that has been going on. And this is a serious situation. I'll be following this, obviously. A few of you did say, yes, Mystery Singer, you were like, I told you so. Can I take this? A lot of you talked about this when we were covering Karen Reed. A lot of you mentioned this. A lot of you brought it to my attention. We didn't get to make a video about it, but we're talking about it now. They got somebody arrested, and I'm sure this is not. There's supposedly 3 other law enforcement officers that were questioned in connection with this. I don't know by the feds or whatever, but this is the scuttlebutt. So perhaps this is, so perhaps this will lead to, again, more dominoes falling in the case of Karen Reed, and in this case of Sandra Birchmore, which is just, I mean, I don't like talking about stuff like this because it's just, there's a young woman, a child, really. She's 23. She was 23. And then a baby involved. Like these are things I don't enjoy talking about. I would also say that I recognize the behavior as being very similar to my father's behavior, who is a psychopath. And, the plotting, the premeditation, it takes a special breed of person to do that. And they're not people you want to encounter in your life. They're really scary, to say the least. They're really scary. They're very chilling. I was thinking this morning about Chris Watts. Something came up about Chris Watts recently. I don't know what came up, but he's since found religion, I believe, in prison. And I thought about him. I don't know why. I was making coffee this morning. I was up at 5 a.m. today. I just couldn't sleep. I got a great night's sleep. I was dead asleep until 5 a.m. Then I woke up and I was like, I can't get back to sleep. I watch sports shows in the morning. That's my usual routine. In case you guys are curious, I watch sports shows in the morning because it takes me away from like all the other stuff I'm doing. I'm like, oh, okay, this is that. And usually listen to music, but I got into watching my sports shows, which is my other favorite passion. And I hate to say it, football season is upon us in 8 days, I believe, 7 days. I'm messing with the wire here because it's made a mess in my desk. And I know that Gen X Granny and Karen Fan are Cowboy fans. I'll tell you what, Gen X Granny. I'm sorry, Gen X to the 7th power. Y'all are Cowboy fans. I'm headed to Dallas next week, but I'll tell you what, I don't have any optimism over the Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys this year. And look, I'm a 49ers fan, so I personally don't have any optimism over my team as well. We're the oldest team in the NFL, and I don't see us winning a Super Bowl. I hope the Chiefs don't win either. I know they probably will. Patrick Mahomes is amazing, but I'd like to see a changing of the guard soon. There's just so many great teams, so it's wild. Anyways, go Steelers. The Steelers. You talk about the Steelers. You guys are in a serious predicament too. I don't know how you solve that quarterback controversy over there either. I mean, I guess Russell Wilson's going to start. Anyways, I won't get into all that. McCarthy is some player. So I never knew that Mike McCarthy was the actual coach of the Green Bay Packers when they won the Super Bowl. I have a lot of respect for him. I worked with I did a demo reel for his daughter during the pandemic. Yeah, it was during the pandemic. I shot a demo reel for his daughter, who weirdly, she's very beautiful, but she looks like, when you realize that it's Mike McCarthy's daughter, you're like, oh yeah, and you can't unsee it. Then you're like, oh, she looks like Mike McCarthy. She was very nice, very sweet person, very lovely person to work with. So let's see here. Officer Gorina, who testified as a data expert on the O'Keefe cell phone, was a Stoughton cop first. I remember that he said that. There was a couple Stoughton police officers that testified in the Karen Reed trial. And again, we're going to talk about the Karen Reed thing in a few 20 minutes. We're going to go outside and see if my car got towed first. My truck, it shouldn't have got towed. But somebody said that your car got towed. I'm like, are you my neighbor? Did you watch it get towed? Because I don't think they tow. I think they tow in this area. I'm sad that Nick Saban retired from Alabama football. We had a great one. Yes, you did. I have learned a lot. I produce a podcast called Mad Rush with Trisha Addix, and it's all about sorority rush in the South. And I've learned a lot about Alabama and Georgia football. I'm learning a lot about football and the SEC football because we're now sort of talking about that a little bit on the podcast and having guests that talk about it that are football fans. I need to go to a game in the South. I need to see this spectacle. It is a spectacle. Screw the NFL. SEC football in the South is where it's at. Clearly, it's a whole other level. I mean, look, I'm from Ohio. Ohio State's big football, Michigan, etc. This is next level to me. Next level football in the South, college football in the South. Crazy. Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have a good season either. We'll see. Yeah, SEC is a religion down here. Yeah, I'm discovering that SEC football is religion. Tennessee Volunteers in the house. Look at this. Yes, I that's what Trisha said. She opened up and she said, anytime you want to come down here, we'll go to a Georgia game, because she's a Georgia Bulldog. And it's wild. It's wild. Yeah, I mean, I've been to football games many times. I love, but not a big college football game fan, but apparently SEC football is not to be trifled with. Anyways, back to what we're talking about. It's good they finally made an arrest here. I do think. What do you guys think? You guys think that the dominoes are going to start falling surrounding Karen Reed's case and her retrial? Taylor's going to the Bucs opening game, as in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cat loves Catskills. That'll be fun. Baker Mayfield, former Cleveland Brown. He seems to have hit his stride. He got paid by the Buccaneers, as he should have. He had a great season last season. I was very happy for him. I cried when he played for the Rams and he scored the touchdown. Won the game in like the last minute and a half. Yes, Mystery Singer. We see that Brian Albert's brother Kevin was suspended for Farwell murder case of Sandra Birchmore. I don't know about so his Kevin Alberts was also suspended because of this thing. Is this new info? Yeah, the Browns will ruin it as usual as well. That's good, but the AFC North. AFC North is the toughest division in professional football. I think you have the Browns, the Steelers, the Bengals, and the Ravens. What is that? It's like gladiators. It's just gonna beat each other up. Anyways, American football should be renamed as soccer. That's funny. I like that. OJ Simpson was an amazing football player for USC. Horrible human being otherwise. Won't be a retrial now. They won't have any credible cops. I would imagine back after this, I would imagine that this particular situation puts the retrial of Karen Reed in jeopardy. I would imagine that's the case, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. All right, guys, Mover Nation. I'm gonna chop this one off. We're gonna come back in 15 minutes. We're gonna go to another live, and we're gonna talk about Karen Reed. We're gonna talk about the O'Keefe's civil case against Karen Reed and what that nonsense is all about. talk about all that, and go move my truck. And I'll be back. We'll see y'all in 15 minutes right here on the channel. 3 o'clock my time, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's 5:44. We'll see you in 15 minutes, Mover Nation. And we'll be back and we'll get it rolling. All right. Anyways, here's the outro. Mover Nation, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to all my channel members and Patreon supporters. And for more exclusive content, behind the scenes videos, monthly VIP meet and greets, and watch parties, please consider supporting me on Patreon or by becoming a YouTube channel member. If you like this video, check out this one right here or this one right here. And don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps with the algorithm. On that note, I'm Collier Landry. I'll see you on the next one. Good girl, Marisol. Good girl.